Yes, welcome everyone. Good morning for those in New York and the West Coast, San Francisco, and good afternoon in the Netherlands and Leiden, and good night for those in Indonesia. Um, Welcome back to Deconstructing Indonesia, collaborating with Logos ID. If you don't know about Deconstructing Indonesia, maybe I can introduce a bit before we started this webinar. So Deconstructing Indonesia is like series of classes that we held since last year in Columbia University. Uh, we are all students, but we love intellectual history of Indonesia. We also do several classes on indigenous traditions and philosophy, and we will wrap up this module soon. So on the next module, we will talk a lot about the conversation of the Indonesian thinkers with the Western thinkers and etc. And we also have like Etienne here, who also hosts a lot of classes on adat in Indonesia. Yeah, and if you are interested to check the recordings, it's all on YouTube. You can search for Deconstruct Indonesia, and it is all available there. And for Logos ID, it's similar, but in Bahasa Indonesia, we have 300 classes that you can see on the YouTube channel, and we have Langka website where you can check more than 500 rare manuscripts for free, and soon we will release encyclopedia about Gerwani. You can check it, gerwani.logosid.app. So I'm digitizing a lot of manuscripts from Cornell and Columbia and make it free. So that's about deconstructing and Logos ID. I hope we will see you everyone a lot of further classes too. Um, and yeah, probably we can ask about the speaker today. We have Louie Buana here. Thank you so much for coming and sharing about Galigo in the next 1 hour. Can you introduce a bit about yourself and how do you encounter Galigo, Kak Louie?
Okay. Thank you very much, Nathan. First of all, I'd like to thank both Logos ID and also Deconstruct Indonesia for this opportunity. My name is Louie Buana, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Institute for History in Leiden University and also a PhD researcher at the KITLV. I'm originally from Makassar, Indonesia, South Sulawesi, Indonesia. And actually, my focus of research in Leiden is about legal history, with specific focus on the maritime adat. So, since you already mentioned about adat, so I feel like there's a connection there. Yeah, so the focus is about maritime adat in South Sulawesi and how it developed from time to time, especially with the coming of Islamic influence and then later with colonialism. So Lagaligo is not like my focus of research here in Leiden, but however, since I'm originally from South Sulawesi and the home of that epic, to me, Lagaligo is something that is more than just story. To me, it is actually my identity, my heritage, and that's the very reason why, since 2011, together with three other friends, also from Makassar, who studied in Java, we created this movement called Lontara Project with the very aim to promote, to reintroduce Lagaligo using different kind of media, so new media for the younger generations. So we created like comics, which we will share later on. Also, a musical piece, um, book talk, through pop article, etc. Even through activities such as heritage camp. So it's been Lagaligo itself is I'm sorry, it's been my passion since the very beginning. Yeah.
Ah, thank you. That's really interesting. If people want to know more about like the Lontara project, do you have like a website or social media that people can go to?
Yes, we do have website. It's www.lontaraproject.com. We also have social medias, but unfortunately, right now, it's on hiatus because uh, we work on this movement all by ourselves, right? And voluntarily. So our social media team right now is focusing on her career and also her family. So yeah, we need to work more on that. But from time to time, we try to update. The people who are interested with Lagaligo from via our website.
Thank you. And everyone, please support Lontara Project and check out their website.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, thank you. And this forum is really open. So if you have any question, if you have any uh, discussions, you can just floor it on the chat, or you can just raise your hand and we can uh, uh, give the floor to you. But before that, I already sent like the paper in the group
Mhm.
chat, and I think there are a lot of things that I never really knew about like Galigo and that paper. So I will start by this paper.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, we often hear that La Galigo described as the longest epic in the earth, in the world. And the paper describes La Galigo as something more like a tribal encyclopedia that grew over centuries, like a living organism. And as someone who have lived with this text, do you see it more like a single work or as an open-ended repository where new knowledge and even new episodes could be added in this epic, Kalwi?
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Nathan. Um, so I will answer that with a story. So my first encounter with Lagaligo is actually not through the text.
Mm.
My first encounter with Lagaligo began as a bedtime story. So when I was a little boy, my father, before I went to sleep, he always tell me story. Because I'm coming from Islamic background, so the story is usually about the prophets, cerita nabi-nabi. Um, but
Mm.
like one day he ran out of the stories because there are limited prophets in the holy book, right? So you cannot like at some point you will run out of the story. And then he began to tell me the story of Saweri Gading. So at that time, I didn't know what Lagaligo is. So the word Lagaligo never actually came up. It never came up in my childhood. But I remember that there's this specific like a heroic figure named Saweri Gading who who has like a giant ship, and with that ship he traveled the ocean blue as far of the land of China, and he also has like a giant bird that he can ride to different part of the world. So in my imagination, this Sawari Gading is like another prophet, like oh, he's so cool. Like he have this amazing power and supernatural qualities. It's not until when I entered middle school, SMP, in Indonesia, then uh, there was like a huge celebration about Lagaligo in the local newspapers in Makassar and also in television. And my father told me that, oh, that's the story of Sawari Gading. And I was like, oh, interesting. So apparently there's like a written version of the childhood story that my father told me. And later on, when I was doing my bachelor degree, then I became more acquainted to this written version of La Galigo because it was celebrated as UNESCO Memory of the World. So it was everywhere. But I was very curious, like, is this the same thing as the bedtime story that I heard from my father? And then it turns out that it's part of the whole mythology, the whole corpus of La Galigo itself. Nowadays, when we talk about La Galigo, unfortunately, people only focus on the written version, right? So
Mm.
they don't really talk about the oral uh, version. While in reality, La Galigo itself started as oral tradition first because the Bugis people in South Sulawesi, they invented a traditional script called Lontara in the 14th century. So La Galigo was written after that, after the Bugis people in South Sulawesi invented Lontara script. However, before that, La Galigo already existed as oral tradition, and even until today. Because when I travel to several parts of South Sulawesi, for example, like in Selayar, in the island of Selayar, they also have their own story of Sawari Gading, um, but it's never written. So it's in the form of oral tradition, and also I encountered several other Lagaligo in its oral forms in Mandar, in Bulukumba, even as far as Toraja. So we see how Lagaligo itself developed from time to time. And together with the development of the medium for storytelling, the story itself also grows bigger and bigger. And that's the reason why Sir Chokolhov, in the paper that I shared to you, mentioned that um, the story of Lagaligo actually has no ends because it it developed from time to time, and it incorporated different elements that is happening within the Bugis society in that particular time. And that is the reason why there's an episode of La Galigo which tells about Islamization. So there's a specific episode in La Galigo which tells how the Prophet of Muhammad is coming down to earth. So then Sawari Gading and all other descendants of the gods from Boting Langi and from Paratiwi must return to the edge of the world. And I think one of my colleague here who attended the seminar, Abdi Mahesa, he was actually doing a research about that particular episode. Uh, Long story short, it's never been like one kind of um, story because it's always developed from time to time. So that's the reason why sometimes I feel a bit weird when people in social media claim Lagaligo as kitab, like kitabnya orang Bugis,
Mm.
because it's never meant to be like only one cultural product. It it develops with us.
Right, right, right. Oh, I realized something. Uh, Please tell me your opinion on this. But I think while you're talking about how the oral traditions, etc., it's like this also can be a part of like the decolonization process, where usually when we look at like knowledge, we tends to stand on the more essentialist part of the knowledge. So we are not putting our subjectivities in that knowledge. While when you're explaining that La Galigo also expanded and also can have more meanings to it, you can put subjectivities in La Galigo. So it makes the epic uh, epic. Do you
Yeah.
think this is like a correct uh, explanation that La Galigo also tries to breaking the essentialist part of knowledge that Western epistemology usually push in the world of education, or yeah.
Mm. I'll say it like this. So, you know how, especially in Western world, a lot of works, literary works, usually they have an author, or at least like a certain person or a group of people that is being attributed to,
Mm.
like Odyssey, Iliad, for
Yep.
example, Homerus, etc. But it doesn't
Right.
happen in Lagaligo. So we never know
Mm.
who's like the first person who created all of this. Thomas Stamford Raffles, in his book in History of Java, he also mentioned about Lagaligo, but he spelled it Lagaliga, and he claimed
Mm.
that the original author of this epic was actually Lagaliga himself, which is incorrect because we never know. There's no an episode in Lagaligo which tells that it is actually being authored by someone. So the way I see it is that this epic belongs to the society, belongs to the people, and that's the reason why it keeps on expanding. It keeps on like adding elements into it. So although the content itself is very pre-Islamic, but as I mentioned earlier, there's an episode of Lagaligo that was created to to smoothen the process of Islamization by incorporating holy Islamic figures such as Prophet Muhammad into the story, and even mentioning the existence of Quran as lontara pura kali. So using like traditional terms that fits into uh, the cultural setting of people in South Sulawesi. Um, in a way, it's very different from how the West imagine how knowledge is produced and how knowledge itself is stored. So it's very dynamic, it's very
Mm.
living, um, and yeah, it what makes it unique. It keeps on growing with you.
Right, right, right. I want to explore further on this topic because I think what makes the paper interesting as well is how the author says that in several manuscripts, uh, there are some of them that are considered so powerful that they can only be written on
Mm,
paper smeared with chicken blood, or uh,
yeah, yeah,
that opening the manuscripts without ritual might cause death. So there's a theme of spirituality, sacredness, etc. How do you see this in terms of Lagaliga, and also like the terms of knowledge too?
yeah. Um, so the sacredness of manuscript, it doesn't apply to every single lontara or every single manuscript written in Bugis script. It's only to it's only for several cases only, and usually it has something to do with genealogy or silsilah. The reason why I say this because first, in the paper, Sir Chokolov actually uh, he was actually addressing one particular manuscript that is now kept in Leiden. It's NBG 189, and it's actually uh, a record of the family tree of Ila Galigo of Sawer Gading. So that's why it was considered as
Mm.
a sacred one. And I grew up with that kind of understanding because in my family, back home in South Sulawesi, we also have like this heirloom, family heirloom, which is Lontara manuscript, and it contains the silsila, or the genealogy of my forefathers. And I remember when I was a kid, I really wanted to, check on the manuscript, but like my older cousin who's the custodian of the manuscript say that, oh, you can open it, but then you have to first sacrifice like a chicken, goat, or something. Like there's a proper ritual that you have to follow in order to open it. Unfortunately, until today I haven't got the chance to see it, to open the manuscript yet. But yes, there's an understanding to, especially to certain kind of knowledge uh, stored in manuscripts that make the manuscript itself holy, or sacred. But it's not always the case because, for instance, there's this Bugis manuscripts kept in Perpustakaan Nasional in Jakarta, which actually contains like uh, a list of deaths, a list of, it's basically like ledgers owned by a merchant.
Mm.
So it contains like the things that he bought, the things that he sold, something like that. And for that particular manuscript, you can always open it like uh, plainly without any ritual. And for certain kind of manuscript, then you have to uh, sorry, do it properly. And I think here, as someone who's studying history myself, um, I consider for us, it is also important to follow the added procedures, um, knowing how the manuscript itself is seen as something that is, more than just text, but it contains like a part of, universe itself according to certain kind of group. And why genealogy becoming sacred? Because it connected us with our predecessors, with our ancestors. And for people in South Sulawesi, ancestors are considered to be sacred, to be honored. So they're to be honored. And even to mention their names, uh, it is actually kind of forbidden. So that you have to, use like a kind of nickname to address your deceased ancestor. So for that, I think as a historian myself, it's important to still obey the rules. It's not that you're not allowed to access it. It's just in order to access it, you have to respect the culture. That's it. I don't know if it's
Mm.
if it
Mm.
if it answer
Oh,
your question, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, it answers your question, but yeah. Actually, we also have like several questions in the chat box, but I still have a lot of questions. But probably I can try to compile it into one. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, how do you see La Galigo in relation with the Bugis identity? And if I'm not mistaken, there's also like a history of violence towards
Mm,
Bugis people, especially Bisu. I think New Order era, or I'm not sure what's the timeline like. But there's a specific history of violence in Bugis. Yeah, can you tell us more about like how first the relations between Lagaligo with the Bugis identity and also like the history of violence towards Bugis people as well? Yeah.
yeah. So first of all, um, for the Bugis people who live nowadays in the 21st century, their knowledge about Lagaligo comes in different degrees, in various degrees. Meaning
Mm.
that some of them, usually the older generations, they have like proper knowledge about what Lagaligo is, and how it's connected to our identity, to our existence as uh, a Bugis people. But unfortunately, nowadays, for the younger generation, it's not so much. Perhaps they heard about it, like remnants, some remnants about the epic, or even names of the characters, because that's how I started to know Lagaligo, right? By knowing like one of the characters, which is Sawer Gading. Um, but it is actually an essential part of being a Bugis itself. And the reason why I say this, because there's a very interesting story with Bugis diaspora in the Malay Peninsula, in region that is nowadays known as Malaysia and Singapore. So after Makassar War in 1669, um, a lot of Bugis, Makassaris, and Mandaris people who didn't want to obey the Dutch, they went out of South Sulawesi to different parts of the archipelago. So it's like an exodus, like a huge exodus from South Sulawesi. And some of them actually landed in that area, the Riau archipelago, and also the Malay Peninsula. And through political alliance with the Malay rulers in the area, especially the Sultan of Johor, they managed um, to have like a important role within the government. And since then, a lot of Bugis people began to migrate and settle down in that area. Even until today, there are still so many people with Bugis heritage in both Malaysia and Singapore. And it was during this particular time that the intellectuals of Malay Bugis heritage came up with this silsila book, or genealogy books. And one of them was actually a celebrated intellectual figure known in both Indonesia and Malaysia as Raja Ali Haji. And usually
Hmm.
Raja Ali Haji, he's known for his invention of gurindam 12, like the kind of Malay syair. But his other creation, his other work was actually Tufatul Nafis, which contains the history of the Malay rulers. And inside that work, he
Hmm.
added a Bugis element into it. So he mentioned about um, the genealogy that is mentioned in La Galigo. So for characters such as Sawri Gading, Ila Galigo, and Dato Patotoy, Dato Palinga, and others, and like inserted it into the Malay rulers' genealogy. So for them, it's something that is important because it is the very core of their identity as a Bugis from South Sulawesi. And in a lot of other regions, for example, in Sumbawa and Bima, where the local rurals were actually um, also engaged in political marriage with the rulers from South Sulawesi. They also have that element of Lagaligo in it. For example, like there's this manuscript from Bima, which mentions Sawar Gading as Sangir Gading in its genealogy. So it's still, yeah, again, it's important. Lagaligo is important because it's the identity, but it comes in different kind of degree of understanding for the Bugis community. And then the question about Bisu. So Bisu was mentioned in Lagaligo as the spiritual leaders and as ritual masters, as well as those who take care of the descendant of the gods uh, on earth. And uh, Bisu continue to be important figures in throughout the history of South Sulawesi, even after Islamization. However, um, in the 60s, there was like uh, a movement led by Kahar Muzakar that wanted to force a strict type of Islam to the people to the people in South Sulawesi. And during that particular time, a lot of bees was actually being hunted. They were forced to dress up as men or female, depends on their biological condition. And a lot of the ritual objects were actually burned down or destroyed. So it was a very difficult for a lot of them. But then after that, there was like a kind of a revival. So they began to shop in public again. But unfortunately, with the rise of the right wing Islamic group in Indonesia right now, so not just in South Sulawesi but Indonesia in general, uh, they were still marginalized. Although culturally speaking, the existence of Bisu itself is very important for Bugis society in South Sulawesi, considering that we respect and honor all the five genders. So, but there were like very close
Yeah.
relationship
Uh,
between Lagaligo and Bisu because they're the custodian of the tradition itself.
yeah. That's yeah, important to see this history as well. And I think in the paper as well, Bisu is also the one who, like, the marriage ceremony happened. They are also contacting Bisu after the memo, after her memory. Yeah. Like this one of the process in the marriage ceremony too, right? In the paper.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, I always like to show artifacts when we are talking about things, including the migration that you mentioned before. So actually, this is a very quick search, and I found like this map about migration, and I think it can give a sense of special spatiality for us when you were talking about the migration of the Bugis that are located here. And you mentioned about Sumbawa. You mentioned also about in Malaysia and Singapore. So to give a sense on how things work, speciality. But also, do you want to explain a bit about three mages that you sent me? There's
Oh,
two
okay. Yeah, yeah.
cartoons and
Mhm.
okay. Do you want to
Yeah,
start
yeah.
with
Or maybe
uh,
the world,
uh,
like the three world.
this one? Oops. Wait.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually an illustration of the universe according to Lagaligo. Um, this illustration was created by a dear friend of mine who's also one of the co-founder of Lontara Project. Her name is Maharani Budi. She's a lecturer in Bandung right now. And so, according to Lagaligo, the universe consists of three layers. The first layer is the upper world. You can say it's like the celestial palace there. And then we have the Alelino or Alekawa, which is like the middle world. And then after that, we also have the underworld. It's called Peratiwi or Todang Toja. Unlike the European mythology that has this idea, underworld is where hell is located. But in Lagaligo, we believe that our ancestors, uh, they come from both the upper world and also the underworld. So underworld is not like a place where the sinful travel to after the Judgment Day. And there's a giant tree in the middle world. It's called Wellenrango. And later on in one episode in La Galigo, the tree was actually chopped down by Sauri Gading because he needed the tree to in order to create a giant ship, a giant vessel to travel to the land of China in order to marry the beautiful Princess Rechudai. And uh, on the four corners of this illustration, we can see there are a rooster, a deer, a shark, and seven children. So this are actually representation of um, star constellations in Bugis. So the rooster itself is a constellation called Manu. I'm not sure what is like the equivalent of this constellation in Western astronomy. Uh, and the other one, the deer, is called Jonga Jonga. The shark one is called Mangiwang. And in Western astronomy, the shark one is actually Scorpio. So Mangiwang is actually Scorpio. And then we have the seven children. The seven children is the Pleiades in Western astronomy. And these constellations, they are still used by Bugis sailors, traditional sailors in South Sulawesi, to navigate. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. If there's a question, then we can discuss it. And the next picture,
Um, this, is this the correct one?
yeah, yes, the correct one. So this is an example of our work in Lontara Project, a short comic as created by a dear friend of mine, Anggriani Wulandari, and it tells the difference, the difference between what is La Galigo, Ila Galigo, and Surat Galigo. So La Galigo is the name of the epic itself. Ila Galigo is the name of a character inside the epic, and Surat Galigo is actually the name for the manuscript. And these two cats,
Mm.
they're actually original characters in La Galigo in the epic. So the black one, the black cat, is called Miko Miko, and the other one is actually a tricolored cat, and her name is Meong Palo. And they were the guardian of the Sangyang Sri. Sangyang Sri is the rice goddess in La Galigo. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's super interesting, and I have a lot of questions, but let's see the another comic. Hmm. Can you see this one?
Yeah. So this one is about the script, the Lontara script, the traditional script from South Sulawesi. And so as I mentioned earlier, Lagaligo already existed as oral tradition even before the invention of Lontara script. And Lontara script was created in the 14th century. But according to some scholars, the events in Lagaligo were actually uh, taking place in either 7th to 10th century or 13th century. So we do not know for sure when events in Lagaligo actually took place, but we can only say that it happened before the Islamization, which is before 17th century. Yeah. So we are using these two characters, these two cute little characters, um, for our young audience who want to know more about Lagaligo.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is important artifacts to not only visualize like the uh, foundation, the concepts and La Galiga, but also disseminate it to the public. And probably we can turn. I still have a lot of questions, but we can turn to the audiences.
Yeah, yeah.
We can start from the question from Kak Lala. I will read it so the people who watch the record can know it as well. Um, my research integrates multisensory computer-assisted language learning with brain-informed principles, rhythm, intonation, and emotion to teach English academic literacy. And now I am expanding this work into regenerative language education, grounding English teaching in Sundanese local wisdom, beginning with the ancient epic Carita Pantun Lutung Kasarong. Like the Bugis Galigo, this tradition embodies key epistemological principles that knowledge is sacred, relational, and communal. Not all of it is meant for public circulation, and the narrative functions less as folklore than as agricultural liturgy and eco-theological guidance for ecological balance. So the question is, to what extent can sacred ancestral epics like Lagaligo and Lutong Kasarung serve as the colonial praxis, which is defined by informing a regenerative, culturally rooted curriculum for education in Indonesia in general?
Okay. Very interesting question, and also very relatable too. In the case of Lagaligo, actually, because it is a story that is passed down from our ancestors to us, it is always meant to be shared. It is always meant for educational, both educational and also for entertainment purposes. And I think for the new generations of the new South Sulawesi generations who inherited this tradition, it is our task, it is our main duty to preserve it, um, without being what you call it, afraid of offending the sacredness of the epic itself, because it is meant to be shared, and is very original place. The very fact that Lagaligo, that was originally an oral tradition and then written down itself, is already a new invention, right? Because before the invention of the Bugis, the Lontara script, no one have ever thought of storing the story of ancestors in a written form. So in a way, it's already an innovation. So I think for Pak Lala, from Cirebon, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. I think just do it. I think it's time for the new generation to know about the epic in its different forms, and by sharing the stories of the epic in a new form to the new generation, it means we pass down the knowledge and the tradition, and it's not offending the sacredness of the epic itself. And that's my opinion.
Thank you so much for that answer, Kak Louie, and also Kak Lala for the questions. Um, wow, we have a lot now. We have a
Yeah.
lot of questions.
If I
Uh,
may,
yeah,
Nathan,
yeah,
if I
yeah.
may add something. So
Yes.
another example is this. So our newest project in Lontara project is actually creating a visual interpretation of the Lagaligo epic through the use of tarot. So this is tarot cards but telling the story of La Galigo. So we are currently developing this. We call it Tarot Galigo. And the very reason why we created this is because the manuscript itself doesn't have visuals, right? So La Galigo is only like pages of Lontara script. For young generations, for the generations nowadays, it will be very hard for them to read the manuscript, let alone to understand the very content of it. And because I personally I'm a collector of tarot cards, but I don't use it for divination. For your information, I'm not a what you call it, like a Brahma. But I love to collect it because of the art, and I realized that every tarot card actually have like what you call it, like symbolism that can be used to tell stories. For example, like this one. This is the two cats that appear in the comic, and this scene is actually an episode in Lagaligo. And in order to understand the characters, and also the story, we also have this. This is the oops. Can you see it? This is the book containing the explanation of the of the card. Yeah. But anyway, so um yeah, just do it. Just do not don't be afraid of offending the sacredness, because I think it is our job, our task, our duty to keep preserving this heritage in new ways. Yeah.
That's a super important project, and let us know if it's already published or anything like that. We are
Yeah,
glad
for
to
sure. Yeah,
promote
yeah.
it. Yeah. Oh, and I heard that you have like a other project with penerbit Banana. Is it the same or
Oh yeah,
different?
yeah, yeah. Okay. So if I may,
Yeah, yeah,
so
sure, sure.
I'm writing a book. It's entitled this Galigori Leiden. I don't know if you can say it. So it's going to be published in May, and it contains my encounter with La Galigo when I first came to Leiden, and also like my personal stories as an Indonesian historian, someone who study history in Leiden, and how I encountered, like this Western epistemology in class. And yeah, a lot of personal stories as someone who lives in Leiden. Yeah, so
That's cool.
if you're
Watch it.
interested to hear my story, it's going to be published by Banana um in May. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We can also send the link later when people can buy it on the group chat and also on the social media. I think it's really important words. Um, okay, we have a lot of questions. Let me run through. So, from Gap, uh, I'm just wondering if there are any influences of Lagaligo literature also in the area of Borneo, Sabah, Singapore, since I heard many Bugis that also rent out to those areas. Oh, I think we already discussed about this before.
Yeah.
From Iza, I've never heard Lagaligo stories from the elders, either in Merlimau, Melaka, Pontian, Johor, or Singapore. Lots to learn from your sharing. Yes. There's from Zoom user. I'm really interested in Lagaligo. I have book titled Lagaligo based on manuscript NBG 188 and BG 188, copied and compiled by Retna Rencana Kolik Puji Arung Pancana
Yeah.
Toa. Do you think a single book like this can represent even a small portion of the epic, considering how incredibly vast the Lagaligo actually is?
Yeah, I think as an introduction, it's a good book.
Hmm.
Yeah, for an introduction to the written form of La Galigo. Yes. But then after that, it's really up to you, like how far you want to explore more and find out more about this epic, especially the oral version of it. And
Mm.
I think to understand like how this epic develop from time to time, it's better to do research about the oral version than the written one, because the written one is kind of like the story itself is being frozen in time, since
Mm.
it's stored already in the form of writing. But when you encounter the oral tradition, then you'll understand that the story is still very much alive within the society. But then again, I think is that book is a good one if you want to um as an introduction to the world of Lagaligo.
Okay, thank you. This is an important question from Kak Alam too. Hi, I'm Alam. I am a Bugis, but still lack of knowledge about Lagaligo. My question is, how are gender-neutral forms of address understood in Bugis culture, particularly in the use of titles such as Puang and Daeng, which do not distinguish between men and women, unlike gender-specific forms of address in some other Indonesian cultures, such as Mbak for women and Mas for men. Is this gender-neutral pattern already reflected in Ilagaligo or in Lagaligo? And does the text also discuss or represent the Bugis concept of five genders?
Okay, are there and about the gender address, yes, there's no difference between male, female, or chalabay, chalalay, and bisu uh, in the Bugis language. So, for example, the title for Princess Wechudai is Daing Risompa. So that title Daing is not only for male, but can also be used for female, the same as Puang. Um, and the second one was about what is that? Sorry.
Um, does the text also discuss
Okay,
or represent the Bugis concept of five genders?
not specifically, but the very existence of Bisu in the epic, it's an indication that the epic itself acknowledges the presence of a gender neutral person since very long time, since before Islamization. So yeah, and also it's interesting for Kaalan to mention like when you address someone who's older than you with Mbak and Mas in Java, like you have like different gender for that, right? But not in Bugis. For example, like if you want to address someone who's older than you just mention Kakak
Mm.
for both gender, and it is also recorded in Lagaligo like that. So you can address someone who's different gender using that word Kakak.
Okay. Yes. We have another question. Hi, my name is Tito and I'm from Makassar. To be honest, I only became familiar with Lagaligo after choosing it as a topic for my thesis. I'm an architecture student and I'm trying to translate the story of Lagaligo into a spatial narrative with a sequential approach. Is there any book that is easy to understand that could help me to better grasp the story of? Oh, I think you already answered this. Do you want to add something or?
Yeah, there are actually um there are actually like a lot literatures that talk about Lagaligo nowadays. It's just most of them are very academic in the sense that sometimes it's quite hard for someone who's not coming from history or cultural background to digest like the whole information. But however, the very essence of why we created Lontara project in the very beginning is actually to be a bridge to menjembatani, like between the academics and greater public to understand more about Lagaligo. So perhaps you can visit our website and see if there's some sources that you can use, or yeah, we can always discuss. I mean, you can. DM me either in Instagram or X. Yeah.
Perfect. Uh, is it okay if we extend the webinar a bit? Because I think there's like five more questions. Or if you have another
Yeah, yeah.
schedule, I think we can.
I have another schedule, but it's okay.
Okay.
It's not until 5, and it's 3 right now here. By the way, there's
Okay.
also a comment by Imalum
Hmm.
Basang, which says that Puang in Bugis and dying in Makassar are genderless. It's true. It's what I
Hmm.
meant with that. So you can use dying Puang for both gender. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Um, Probably we can go to the next question, which is from Kak Dwi, Kak Ari. Hello, I am Ari, and I am currently writing a research project related to La Galigo for my PhD project. I believe that La Galigo holds considerable potential for decolonizing various forms of knowledge produced by the global north. We may have encountered through both theoretical reading and their practical relevance in Indonesia that several paradigms originating from the global north often enter into anomalous situation when they are uncritically imposed upon the Indonesian context. One example is our current concept of democracy, which in many ways has become a smoldering fire that we continue to consume. Yet, when we engage with Lagaligo, we may encounter a conception of democracy that is potentially more contextual than the democratic frameworks inherited in the global north. In its position as a form of local yet universal knowledge, then could Lagaligo become a paradigm? This question becomes increasingly relevant when we observe the contemporary condition of knowledge production in Indonesia and more broadly across the global south, where movements to decolonize knowledge have emerged on a massive scale. However, among many existing papers and studies, such decolonial efforts are often still carried out through the conceptual apparatus of the other, that is the global north. In other words, decolonization has not yet occurred in a truly radical sense. One of the key reasons for this, arguably, is that such efforts have not yet reached philosophical layers. Oh yeah, so back to the question. In its position as a form of the local yet universal knowledge, could Lagaligo become a paradigm?
Yeah, I think we also addressed this a little bit in the beginning, yeah, when we talk about the different epistemology between how the West saw what is a corpus of
Mhm.
knowledge and what Lagaligo is actually. Um, I really can see that happen in the sense that a lot of study about Lagaligo nowadays, they're focusing on the philological aspects only, like the sastra aspect. um, we haven't yet reached um, to the point where we understand this as a way to deconstruct our point of view about the world. Um, so a couple weeks ago, I released an article in the website in Lontara Project website, which tells about an episode in Lagaligo that warned people to chop down trees, right?
Mm.
Because according to Lagaligo, if you chop down trees, then a huge flood will come. So um, that particular episode and the advice that is given to us is very relatable, especially on seeing what happened in Indonesia currently right now with the disasters that happened to our brothers in Aceh, in North Sumatra, and also in West Sumatra. um, I think uh, it's still very relevant, and it is our task to actually um, to understand like this local wisdom that is stored in Lagaligo, and then shifted it and use it, reconstruct it as a way to counter the Western narrative of what is knowledge. I think it's still very possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think I can choose to last question. If you have any more question, please reach out to Kak Louie and the social media. And I think this is also like an important question from Auf. In the Malay Sultanates, specifically Johor Riau, the Bugis royals held the unique position of Yam Tuan Muda, carried an
Mm.
authority in statecraft equivalent to that of the Sultan. According to Andaya, this was heavily influenced by the ethos of Asitinajang, or equity or appropriateness, which led to the Bugis diaspora to establish similar contracts with various other polities. I'm curious, how does the Lagaligo portray the ethos of Asitinajang, if at all?
Okay, so um, actually, for the particular concept of Asitinajang, I can relate it more to other tradition than Lagaligo. Um, so I'll give you an example. In South Sulawesi historiography, every traditional kingdom in South Sulawesi, they were actually founded by these mythical figures known as Tomanurung. Tomanurung literally means the one who descended from heaven. And in Lagaligo, the first Tomanurung was actually Batara Guru, who came down to earth and became the first human. Okay. And it is very interesting that when a Tumanuru appeared in certain region in South Sulawesi, the local population will gather around Tomanurung and then ask the person. So Tomanurung can be a female or male figure, and then ask that person, the Tomanurung, to be their leader. The Tomanurung usually will reject first. He or she will say that I do not have anything, you know, to be your leader. And then the people, the commoners will say that we'll give you house, we'll give you rice field, we'll give you servants. We will provide for you as long as you want to rule us, to guide us, and to be our judge. And when the Tomanurung said yes, then they're immediately bounded in a kind of social contract. Okay, so in this social contract, it is very clear that as long as Tomanurung and their descendants, which is going to be the line of rulers in South Sulawesi, the lines of king and queens in South Sulawesi, as long as they can lead the people with justice, then the people will respect them, will obey them, and will provide them. However, if they're turning away from the people and becoming like a penguasa zalim, like an evil ruler, then the people, the society, rakyat, will uh, will rebel against them. So there's like this kind of social contract which place the ruler and also the people in each respective roles, right? And that is what called asitinajang atau kesesuaian, like kepantasan.
Hmm.
And when the Bugis people sailed to Malay Peninsula, to the Rio Archipelago, and they were helping the local Johor Malay kings to protect the throne. Once they finished with their job, they uh, they bound themselves to the Malay rulers using the same formula, meaning that you're the ruler, and I will obey you as long as
Hmm.
there's a give and take situation. And the Bugis managed to uphold their position in the local politics by creating this specific office called Yang di Pertuan Muda. Yang di Pertuan Tua is a title for the Malay Sultan, and Yang di Pertuan Muda is a title for the leader of the Bugis community. And it's becoming like the situation is almost similar with prime minister and king. So the actual power is actually located with the Bugis as the Yang di Pertuan Muda. And that's the way they play it politically. It's a tradition that is originated from South Sulawesi, but then they managed to modify it and planted it into the Malay world, into the Malay, sorry, the Malay Peninsula.
Hmm. Ooh, that's another interesting topic.
Yeah.
Um, okay, we have like the last question here. Again, sorry everyone, we cannot answer all of your questions, or it will be 3 hours or more. This one is from Imalombasang. As far as I can gather from your explanation, you mentioned earlier that Ilagaligo or Lagaligo is not a Bugisnis kitab. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is this merely a matter of debate? Does this mean that Lagaligo is not sufficiently a collective narrative of the Bugis people, as opposed to the Wayang stories in Java? Is the discussion between Matulada, Fahrudin, and others regarding the composition of Lagaligo related to the history of the canonization of the Lontara script by Daeng Panmate in the 16th century?
Pamata, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, first of all, why Lagaligo is not a kitab? Because um, it's different from, for example, Bible and Quran, in the sense that there's never exist um, Lagaligo as a single manuscript containing all the stories, right? The one that is kept in Leiden, the 12 manuscripts that is considered to be the most complete volume of Lagaligo, is an invention by Matas and Cholit Puji. In the society, in the real society, usually like a Bugis family who owns Lagaligo manuscript, they only have like one or two episode. That's it. So never like the whole compilation of the stories. And in the paper by Sir Chokolhov, he also mentioned that um, there's a huge variations of Lagaligo in the sense of the length per episode and even the details. So, for example, like my family have an episode of Lagaligo which tells about the story of Sawari Gading traveling to China, and then Nathan's family also have it, but it's not like the exact same manuscript in the sense that mine is longer and has more details, for example, but Nathan's family is like shorter and like go directly into the plot, into the story without like description of this and that. And that's the reality in South Sulawesi. So there is no like one identical Lagaligo episode, although like the plot is still similar, the same. And for that very reason, Lagaligo is not a kitab. For Bible and Quran, it's all the same across centuries, across places. But for Lagaligo, is not the same. And what was the next question? Sorry.
Sorry.
Discussion between Matulada, Fahrudin, and also
Oh
regarding the
yeah.
concept of to the history of conversation of the winter. No, it's different. So a lot of people in South Sulawesi think that Lontara script was created by this figure called Daeng Pamate. Daeng Pamate is mentioned in the Chronicle of Goa as the Shah Bandar, or the harbor master of the Kingdom of Goa, who in the 16th century created Lontara Makassar. And a lot of people thought that this Lontara Makassar is actually the script, while in reality, it's not the script. The script already existed way before the 16th century. So what Daeng Pak Mate created was actually the Chronicle of Makassar. So Lontara Makassar is not like the script, but it's the chronicle, the story of the kings. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
Thank you
different
so
topic. Yeah.
much. Yes, thank you so much, Kak Louie. We already spent more than an hour talking about La Galigo, and there are more to explore. So, if you have further question, you can check out Kak Louis' social media, also like the books, the tarot, the Lontara project. There's a lot of resources that you can start digging around from now. Um, yeah, and also, uh, Deconstructing Indonesia will have like packed month in April. We will have another discussion with Perdana Roswaldi about the indigenous concept of space and modernity. We will also be in Harvard in April 4th. So if you're around in Boston or around, please uh, come by, and probably Derek will treat you a meal. We will also have like a discussion about Kajang and other topics. And please stay around. And oh, also please give applause to Kak Louie for spending one more than 1 hour. It's really great conversation as well. Do you have any
My pleasure.
announcements or anything you want to say before we close the webinar, Kalawi?
Okay. Yeah, so I think a lot of people are curious about the book, yeah. The Magaligo Leiden. So in May 14th to 17th, there is going to be like an event in Makassar. It's called Makassar International Writers Festival. And I'll be coming back to Indonesia, to Makassar specifically to launch the book there. And not just it, but like this Taro Galigo will be exhibited for the public during the event. So if you have time, please come. Join us in Makassar in the Makassar International Writers Festival. I think some of the committees are here, also joining us in the talk. And yeah, it is a great pleasure for me. Thank you very much, Nathan, Logos ID, and Deconstruct Indo. And hopefully, this is not the first and the last. This is the
Yes,
first to many other
many more.
collaborations. Yes, many more collaboration, and yeah, it is truly my honor. Truly my honor. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kalawi. We are also honored to have you in this forum. And thank you also everyone who are standing by until 9 p.m. in Jakarta and as well. And yeah, thank you so much and see you around, and hope we are getting still getting connected. And please uh, chat anything on the launch group on WhatsApp, or reach us out on social media as well. Thank you, Kalui. Thank you, everyone. See you
Thank you,
around.
Professor. Bye bye,
Thank you so much.
everyone. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.